Hey, Void! Still happy Halloween! Figurizzo here with our October wrap-up, part 2. And, you know, that last one was actually my 200th review. So, give myself a little applause there. I didn't even comment on it in that episode, but, well, here we are with our 201st, so it's still something to be proud of. And go me. Okay, so this one was our to-be deliberate pick, which it's really hard to just scroll through Tubi. It goes on forever. So unlike Netflix where I could look at everything and then pick one, this one I just had to scroll until something just jumped out at me. Otherwise I'd be scrolling forever. So I went with something that I saw the original to actually last year during October, so I thought I'd follow it up. And, well, I was not disappointed. So the one I went with for this one was Hell House LLC 2, the Abbadon Hotel. Now, last year I gave a very favorable review to Hell House LLC. If memory serves, I think it was in my top 5 last year. It was a very effective movie. And, yeah, I'm still actually pretty satisfied with the sequel here. I will say I was a little concerned at first. A lot of the opening wraparound segments, the acting was a little concerning. It seemed over the top and cheesy as hell, and I was a little worried. But once they actually get into the Abaddon Hotel, oof, does it pick up. I will say some of the people just kind of going into the hotel when they're just showing stuff for that, that's fine. But when they got the talking head segments, I was a little worried. Particularly with one girl who ended up being the main character. Just something about her acting was a little off, but she works later once she's actually in the hotel itself, but up until then, I was a little concerned. And the psychic guy is so self-aggrandizingly obnoxious that you knew he's going to get his comeuppance there, but it was really obviously telegraphed. That said, once they're actually in the house itself, okay, yeah, it's a decent follow-up. It is probably end up being, for me, of the movies I haven't seen, it was the scariest film I saw this month. It actually got my heart going a little bit there, and isn't easy anymore. I mean, the movie isn't utterly terrifying or anything like that, but it has got some good tension. And some very freaky visuals, and a lot of them are working for me in this one. The effects are still little. None of them are that impressive, but it's not going out of its way to be. I will say it did lose a little momentum in the final act when they start actually explaining some of what's going on, but by and large, it was still a very fine film. So this one picks up about 3 years after the... Okay, so the first movie took place 5 years after the actual event, and it was all documentary stuff about what happened. This one is about 3 years after that, and they're still talking about it and how now they believe the DVD was a hoax, and some people now have some... And this is about a investigative crew who has just been tipped off that there might be some documents inside the hotel that go into some more details about the original cult, and that this evidence could help prove a lot of what was going on, was more at least prove the cult aspect, which would open the doors to some more of the supernatural elements. So it's about them taking the one of the producers of the documentary from the first one with them to the Abaddon Hotel, and, well, going in for a quick look down to the basement where all hell broke loose. And, well, yeah, the expected happens. They get locked in and are terrorized. But it handles mood very well at that point. So, yeah. I'm going to give this one 4 MacGuffins. I don't remember what I gave Hell House LLC. No, it was either 4 or 5. But this one, it was a solid 4. Very, very well put together found footage film. So, yeah, okay. I was down for this one. Let me see. I think that's everything for this one. It was 2018 when this one came out, by the way, and I know both this one, the first one, and a third one were all kind of conceptualized together, so hopefully I don't wait a full year to get around to seeing the third one, because I was struggling a little bit to remember some of the details, but a lot of the overall plot did come back to me pretty quick. Alright, so it was a very simple plot, so it didn't take me long to talk about here. Alright, October wrap-up, part 2. This one I'm going to be counting down the 5 most painful movies to sit through this month. So away we go. Number 5. This is the least bad of the bads, so I'm going to go with demonic. Mostly just because the shaky cam gave me such motion sickness throughout this one. I was not feeling well watching this film. And while it was trying to do something interesting with the wraparound story, it didn't quite succeed. But it only fell this far down the list because that's what kept it from getting worse. It did have some ideas and was trying to make a point. And while they're not succeeded, it gets at least some points for effort. Number 4, I'm going with Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. Just because this one was so dull. There's a lot of interesting things you could do with Ed Gein, and this does none of them. And poor Kane Hodder is doing everything he can, but he's given nothing to work with. Number 3, Candy Corn. Now, when I kept referencing bad movies earlier in the month, comparing them to some of the ones I'd seen, I kept even forgetting to reference Candy Corn because it's such a forgettable film, and that's the problem. It's got a lot of good people in it, but they are not saving it. And the cast that's being killed off is so unlikable that you can't feel any sympathy for them. There's no protagonist in this whole movie, other than one girl who is, again, unceremoniously killed off. So who are we rooting for after that? No one. This movie just made me mad. Number 2, The Sleeper. 'Cause why? I still have no answers. This movie took all the tropes from like 5 different classic slashers, threw them in a blender, blitzed them down to nothing, and then just discarded, and then strained out anything that could have saved it before just throwing it at the screen to see what stuck. And this movie is not going to be sticking with me. It's bad, but not to the bad point of I'm not going to remember this movie in like 2 months. It was so forgettable. And the worst one for the month, and now this one I will remember, was Alpine Lake. Because, wow, this was amateur. From the terrible effects, not being able to see anything, audio issues, dodgy acting, and some very unlikable characters, and with no rhyme or reason to anything that's happening in the storyline, this one definitely took the cake. Almost all the dialoguing sounded like it was ad-libbed, so, oh boy. This one was a mess. Right, okay. That's all for this chunk. So, got one more for part 3, which will finish off my Halloween wrap-up, which I'll cover my Shudder review. See you in a few.